Good afternoon, I'm Kylie. Do you need another stretch? 10-second stretch, get up, stretch up high, breathe.
Stretch.
I wish I had said this morning, do you know John Crisp, the Christian comedian? I think he's got a video, I think it's called Pastors Be Prepping Black. And he says, get out your phones, people, there's going to be some very tweetable quotes coming up. So I hope you've had your phones out today. I'm going to share a story with us for the next 15 minutes. When she was a child, she liked hearing stories about King Jesus and seeing the pictures in her children's Bible. She liked singing songs about God in the car, and she knew that Jesus loved everyone. She told her friends about him and his love. She was often asked to wear her pretty shoes or tidy her hair, and when she rumbled and did somersaults, she was told to stop because that's not how little girls behave. As a teenager, she was drawn to youth group where the Jesus believers hung out, played, laughed, prayed, and flirted. She was asked to dress modestly because she didn't want to be the cause of the boys stumbling. She loved God and she was cooperative, so she did. She learned a lot at youth group, more about her sexual purity than her spiritual gifts, and she noticed that the girls were taught to be submissive more than the boys. As an adult, she serves, prays, studies, and practices hospitality. She cares for the poor and seeks the Lord in all her decisions. She runs kids' church, and she mentors younger women. She asks questions of the leaders and she offers ideas. She's often met with surprise or suspicion. Some say, well, that's not a bad idea for a women's ministry. Or she's a bit of a fiery one, steer clear of her. During the week, she is capable and skilled to run her household and her workplace. She is kind and generous wherever she is able. She sits curious and confused when anyone preaches on 1 Timothy 2. Why is it that we enforce verse 12, that a woman must be silent, yet not verse 8? Men must lift holy hands in prayer, free from anger and controversy. And so she learns more and more about the shape that she has been designated to live in. And some say the glass ceiling was built from Bible verses. It's funny because Jesus was never like that. He lifted up the women around him and he defied the limits that they were given. Like when he took water and drank with the Samaritan woman at the well in John 4. And when he did not condemn but set free the woman caught in adultery in John 8. Or when he gave Mary Magdalene the honour of being the first witness to his resurrection from the dead in Mark 16. Her male equivalents are mentored and given a platform. They start to become the next preachers, leaders, ministry candidates. She wasn't consulted. In church, it's called serving according to gender-based roles. It bears a remarkable resemblance to sexism. She loves Jesus with all her heart. She prays and reads and grows in maturity, and she lives at the foot of the cross. She carries the burden of housework, childcare, and the mental load. Her husband seems charming and godly to everyone else, but at home he's demanding, demeaning, and angry. He treats her badly and then blames her for it. It gets worse when she's pregnant. She tells the church leaders and they say, go home and pray, submit to your husband. But she is not only as innocent as a dove, she is as wise as a serpent, and she knows the signs of domestic violence. So who is she? Who is this woman who lives through complexity, injustice, ignorance, and pain? This woman saved by grace, in service of the King, seeking the Lord with all her heart. She is you. She is me. She is this generation of Australian Christian women. She is the woman sitting next to you. She is your sister. She is your daughter. She is your friend. As women, we live with greater barriers when compared to our male counterparts. An overwhelming body of international, peer-reviewed, scientifically validated evidence tells us that as women we are paid less, valued less, listened to less, and taken less seriously. Evidence tells us that male headship enacted in the home, in the church, or in society fosters unconscious bias, where women are unjustly and incorrectly viewed as less competent and less capable. And here's the kicker: even in the presence of loving and kind intentions, women are still viewed as less competent and less capable. We are interrupted, objectified, devalued, passed over and harassed. We have to work harder to achieve the same results. We are denied a seat at the decision-making table. The issue of women in church is not an issue for us, it's personal. We know that Me Too is just another day in our agenda, and we're shocked but not surprised about Church Too. Perhaps the most shocking part was that some of the men had no idea. But far from being victims of circumstance, these trials are our refining fire. Have you ever seen a goldsmith at work? The goldsmith takes a nugget of gold that's been mined from the ground, and in it is dirt and other minerals and all sorts of impurities, and the goldsmith will put that nugget of gold into a furnace, sometimes up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. And it starts to morph and roll and break and shift. And the dirt and the other impurities start to burn up. They burn at a lower temperature than the gold, so they start to separate out. That stuff's all called the dross. Such a great word, dross. Everything that's not the gold, everything that devalues the gold, it burns up until just the most precious stuff, until just the gold is left. And if you say to a goldsmith, how do you know when the process is finished? How do you know when the gold is as pure as it can be? They'll say, oh, that's easy. It's when I can see my reflection in it. That's when I take it out of the fire. And it's such a great picture of the refiner's fire that Jesus has for us. He refines us by fire. We are like gold, so rich and precious to him, and he refines us until he can see his likeness more clearly in us. So if you're in the fire of discrimination and injustice, of being subtly passed over or brazenly harassed, in that fire, cling to Jesus. And cling to the other women in that fire, because you are not alone in that fire, we're all in there together. And Jesus will hold you until he can see his reflection more clearly in you. Because in all things, even in oppression and hardship and flames, God works for the good of those who love him. So what does it take to live through hardship and fire and come out the other side? Because honestly, not everyone does. Some people quit on Jesus. Some people say the church is irredeemably patriarchal. Some become bitter. So what does it take? Someone once said to me, be careful of praying for wisdom, because God won't just give you wisdom, he'll give you complexity in which to cultivate your wisdom. And as women, we have already been given the complexity in which to cultivate our wisdom. So let's grow wise, shall we? So what does it take to live through the fire and come out the other side? I think it takes valor. Great courage in the face of adversity. Holy Spirit-given bravery. God-ordained nerve, audacity, boldness. To face the flames or the battle and make it through, it takes a woman of valor. So who is she? Well, she is FHE18 from Proverbs 31, a woman of valor who can find. She is worth far more than rubies. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. You may have heard this translated a wife of noble character. Woman and wife is the same word in Hebrew, eshet, right to left, eshet shayil, a woman of valor. I don't think the Proverbs 31 woman needs to be a wife any more than she needs to get up before dawn and plan the day's work for her servant girls. I don't know about you, but I haven't layeth my hand to the spindle lately. Although I would like my children to arise and call me blessed. That'd be nice. Good morning, mother, be blessed. Go forth, my child, have your Nutri-Grain. And I would like to buy a field and plant a vineyard, that'd be cool. But she doesn't need to be a wife. This is a woman of valor, and she's in the context of her people and her daily work. Isn't she beautiful? She's clothed in strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. And when she speaks, not if she speaks, when she speaks, her words are wise and she gives instructions with kindness. Isn't she gorgeous? I like to think that God knew that we as women would encounter discrimination and hardship, so he gave us this archetype of a woman of valor in Proverbs 31. She is wise, weathered, industrious, skilled, surrounded by sisters, cheered on by generations, prepared for her task. Her mind is sharp, her hands are active, and her courage is needed. Last year, I had one of the hardest years of my life, and I was walking that season with some dear lifelong friends, and they very thoughtfully sent me flowers for my birthday, and it came with this card. It said, "Happy birthday, Kai, we just love you. Eshet Shayel, Fatty, Nay, and Nick." Fatty's name is April, don't worry about it, she's not fat, she's actually a very healthy mate. And I kind of like how it looks like they're calling me Eshet Shayel Fatty, like I kind of like that. It's like a typography error, but you know, I'll go with it. So these are my sisters, April, Nicola and Renee, and on my birthday last year they reminded me who I am. They reminded me that I am a woman of valor in this hard season. So here we all are, this is us. We are cheerleaders for each other. There's some of our men and one of our kids. Look at little Ethan that I'm holding. He's like, "We're supposed to smile, but I'm kind of terrified." So I think this is what women of valor look like these days. And in selfie culture, this is what Australian Christian women of valor can look like. I hope you've got similar friends and a similar picture of women of valor surrounding you. So what is this wisdom that the Lord is cultivating and refining in us, this generation of his Eshet Shayel? Well, wisdom, first and foremost, is what? The fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge is the beginning of good judgment. That's Proverbs 9:10. So the woman of valor loves the word, and she soaks in it daily. Through all the hardship, the word is her well, and she drinks deep. The woman of valor knows that there will be Christians who prefer tradition to Jesus. They prefer the way things have always been done. They prefer a negative peace, that is, the absence of overt tension. But the woman of valor knows that the peace of Jesus is a positive peace, that is, the presence of justice, even if it takes a season of tension and adjustment to get there. The woman of valor knows that when she is sidelined at church, it is done because of faulty theology and worldly patriarchy, not because her gifts are not needed for the building up of the body of believers. And in her wisdom, she knows that sometimes the greatest spiritual abuses come Bible-quoted. Sometimes the most soul-destroying lies are delivered in sermons and colleges. The woman of valor knows her Bible, and she knows her Father God that authored it. So she sits with God in prayer and asks for discernment to tell truth from lies and submission from oppression. Through the oppression, the sexism, the harassment, the pain, she remains gracious, courageous, prayerful. Her valour is displayed in those tiny moments of choice and response. Some people look the woman of valour up and down, what she's wearing and whether she measures up. And they might say, how lovely you look. And you better believe she does, because she is clothed in strength and dignity. The woman of valour approaches the decision-making table and she takes her seat. She sees patriarchy, oppression and tradition also seated at the table. Her throat is tight, but she speaks the truth even if her voice shakes. She speaks justice to oppression, truth to power, and wisdom to folly. Hallelujah, that we get to be a part of what God is doing through this generation of Australian Christian women, God's women of valour. Here's what I'm praying for us. Would you join me now? Loving Father, God of wisdom, King of justice, refine us into your women and men of valour. Amen.